very talented young people who have decided to follow.
Then another year it starts again. Well, this is different.
We should definitely be talking to these wonderful people. Once again, we urge you to share the feed on Facebook.
Hi there, I'm Faida, and today we're going to be talking about the African diaspora in Mexico.
Whether UK likes it or not, I have to leave this country.
I became a member and a chief of the Vice Lord all in one day.
All these guys wins right out of the north at Midway Airport.
His father.
Well, this is the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Senna. Today is December 14th, 2022. We are very close to Christmas, and we are very excited to be coming your way this evening. Pardon us for the slight late start in the show. We'll be talking to our guests in a little bit. Before that, we will go to Captain Mike, take his segment. Angie Mims is with us this evening, co-hosting as usual. And so please share the feed if you're on Facebook and on YouTube. We are also live on Twitter at this moment. Captain Mike, please take it from here. When we come back, the show will continue by way of introducing our guest for the evening. Go ahead, Captain Mike.
All right. Looking at our current weather right now at Midway, we've got winds out of the east at just about 12 miles an hour. Cloudy skies and some off and on light rain. Let's look at the schedule, look at the forecast for the rest of the week. Tonight, we're going to keep those strong winds out of the southeast down about 37 degrees, still windy. Tomorrow, windy skies, cloudy skies, windy. Going to have a partial chance of some flurries. Friday's going to be bad, just the same. Winds are going to be out of the west, but we're not going to have the same forecast for snow. Any snow. So we're going to be dry Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Tuesday is going to be cold, but there's a chance of some flurries. And Wednesday, cold, but it looks like it's going to be dry. So we're going to have winds out of the west pretty much all week. Cloudy skies, not going to see much sun, and cold. Not too great. Looking at sports today, France defeated Morocco in the World Cup 2-0. The Knicks are going to play the Bulls tonight at 6:30. So if you get a chance, check out the Knicks and the Bulls. Going to the health and fitness report. Well, let's talk about cold and flu remedies that actually work. This is from blackdoctor.org. So let's start with chicken soup. Chicken soup has been proven to inhibit the immune cells called neutrophils and can work as anti-inflammatories. Honey has been shown to soothe sore throat irritation. Garlic not only does it prevent vampire attacks, but it's also been shown to help prevent colds. Green tea. In another study, people taking green tea supplements had fewer days of cold and flu symptoms, and they got over their symptoms much earlier than people who did not take green tea supplements. Echinacea. Studies have also shown that echinacea reduces the odds of colds by up to 58% and decreases the duration of colds by nearly a day and a half. Finally, elderberry. It's also been shown that people who took elderberry were likely to have or resolution in their symptoms within just a few days of catching a cold. So keep this in mind. Go to blackdoctor.org. Look for cold and flu remedies that work. And with that, Sina, we're going to go back to you.
Thank you, as usual, Captain Mike. We really appreciate the updates. We will go straight because of time. Captain Mike, we wanted to ask you a few more questions, but I know we ran out of time. So once again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. God willing, we'll see you next week.
Protect you.
Okay. That being said, we want to go straight to our guest. The discussion for this evening, looks like we're having a little delay in our network today, but pardon us. The discussion for this evening is the role of men in community building. But we want to get the perspective from Black men. And so if you're a Black man, whether you're an African, Caribbean, we're all Black people. And so we would encourage you to chime in into this conversation. It's very, very important. We know men already lead in families, but how about our roles as leaders in our communities? How crucial is that? What are our challenges? What are our challenges? And what opportunities are out there for other men who have not yet taken initiative to lead? So please help make this conversation a very important one. And so without much ado, I'll like to go to our guest. First of all, Angie, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. I am very excited because I don't know if I can contain it. I don't know if I can. All of these brothers are. When I tell you, I'm gonna let them do their part, but I'm excited.
No, definitely. When you told me about them, I have been in anticipation scenes, especially. We told me about Torres, told me about Lieutenant Daniel, and then Abel Mohammed. So I'm also looking forward to learning a lot. So Angie, thank you so much. But let's start with the top and we'll come all the way down. Mr. Abel Mohammed, a brief background about who you are, and then we'll go to Mr. Torres.
Thank you, dear brother and brothers and sister and those who are watching. I'm Student Minister Abel Mohammed, the representative to the Latin American and Spanish-speaking community for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam. And I'm based here out of Chicago, Illinois, where I'm blessed to serve out of our headquarters mosque, which is our national center, Mosque Mariam. And I've had the pleasure of working with Angie and Brother Robert Torres as well for several years now, way before COVID and everything, when things were a little bit more normal. And, we work in the community, in particular with young men, helping them to accept the responsibility of what it is to be a man, and in peace initiatives to help them understand that there are conflict resolution methods that can be used that can hopefully help them in making the right decision and stopping them from making decisions that could critically affect someone else and even ill affect their own lives. So it's an honor to be here and be a part of this conversation.
Thank you so much, Abel. We really appreciate it. Robert.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, my name is Robert Torres. I'm the co-founder for Parents for Peace and Justice, an organization helping mothers and families affected by gun violence. But we're also, helping the youth as well, right? We know that prevention is a way of reaching the children, right, before gang recruitment. So trying to keep the kids off the, neighborhoods, off the block, and trying to give them a right road, right? So we can definitely grab them and definitely change the situation that we're seeing currently today. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And then we want to listen to Lieutenant Daniel, please.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lieutenant Daniel Allen. I currently work in the 11th District with Harrison and Kedzie. I've been in law enforcement for over 29 years. My specialty on the job has been narcotics, working in tactical units. But of the last 9 years before I got promoted, my expertise is community policing. And I take community policing to heart, which is dealing with young people, young men, young women, etc. And my other hat that I wear, I'm a co-founder of Divine Purpose Youth Performing Arts Center with my wife, where we specialize in music performance because I'm also a singer and songwriter. And what I do with my spare time is I cultivate young men and women to be music artists.
It's a pleasure to have, gentlemen, you all on this platform. And as a young man, as a young African man who has been in this country for some time, specifically in the city of Chicago, I have seen the will of the African American community when it comes to organizing. Something that, as an African, I see a little bit of lack of in the continent of Africa, specifically Ghana, where I'm from. It's very difficult to call people to organize concerning issues that are bothering when it comes to social, cultural issues, political, economic. A lot of times we leave the responsibility to our political leaders to make decisions, and on the grassroots, organization has not been something that people take seriously. It's been lacking. So I really do appreciate the work that you all have done over the years, over the centuries, in helping build this wonderful country for all of us, be it Africans, be it Caribbeans, South Americans, other immigrants, to come and take advantage of. So really want to thank you all for the work you've done so far. And that being said, what is leadership? Angie, you may come in, but I want to know what people hear leadership, but from your understanding, Abel, having done a lot of work with all your accolades and your research and experience, what is leadership to you in the first place?
Leadership is really service to the people. And I think, unfortunately, most of us, and in particular from the political standpoint, that's not how it's perceived. We see leadership as power, but that power only comes if you serve the people who are the real power. And in too many instances, our focus is not on the people and getting them what they need to live better lives, to have safe communities. Our focus tends to be economics, which is needed. No doubt about it, we need it. But throwing money at the problem doesn't fix the minds of the people or heal their broken hearts. So real leadership, I believe, is founded in the principle that Jesus lays down in the Bible, that he who would be greatest among you, let him be your servant.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Absolutely. Abel, you nailed it. I think leaders one that leads by example, right? Many times we speak, but, truth be told, we have to lead by example. Many times we often say, and we tell the youth, we want them to get along, right? To work together. And I always challenge the leaders, rather that be a pastor, rather be a politician. We have to be the example that we want to see in our community, meaning that we have to practice and walk the walk. So I think a leader is one that's being the example that he wants to see in his community and city.
Thank you so much. And then we'll hear from Lieutenant Daniel Allen.
Leaders. Well, leaders are good followers.
Okay.
A lot of people don't understand that when you're in leadership, if you cannot follow the rules of other leaders, then you cannot be a great leader yourself. And that's one of the things that we have issues with, because we have a lot of quote unquote chiefs in community leadership, which leads to fighting amongst each other, instead of for titles, et cetera, instead of listening to each other to get ideas to help collaborate. And that's what makes a good leader, because once you're able to follow, then from there, you can take other people's perspectives. So from there, you can take your own perspective, and people will lead. They will follow you more because they will see the dedication in your heart.
Thank you so much. And I know you're all leaders in your various families. We would be a little biased towards Robert because of his time. I know he has to leave us due to certain community engagements that he has. So, Robert, we chose this subject because Angie and I talk about it all the time, that we see men lead, but we also see a lot of women, taking initiative in whether it's in the brown communities, minority communities. We see a lot of that. And so do you think that we as a society or folks in the Black communities, youth and minority communities, do you think that we're lacking more men in leadership roles?
100%. Let me put it in perspective. When mothers and families are affected by gun violence, in many cases, when we go to do a visual, when we stand with the family, when we do a march, we are lacking men. Most of the time, 90% are women that are actually standing, that are actually fighting, and we lack the men. And so we always try to challenge the men because we need the men, right? I always use this analogy that was used as an example. It's almost being at a stadium, right? And yelling, right? When a woman yells, it's a high pitch. When a man yells, it's a strong roar. So there is power behind a man. we need more men. We need more men in our streets. We need them to be that example that our children are looking for. And furthermore, to be that mentor, to hold these young men's hands and guide them. So we are lacking that. But Abel is a prime example of many men, and I'm sure also the detective that's on here as well, that we need a lot more Abels and brothers like us that are willing to stand in the community and stand with the hurting community. It's really needed.
And I know Angie may have a question for you, but before she comes in, I would like you to give us a little historical context when it comes to men who have led and contributed so much to the society that we live in, specifically bringing it home, Chicago.
Is that a question for me? I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry. Can you say the question again? I'm sorry.
Help give us a brief historical context of how some men who have led and brought changes in minority communities, specifically here in Chicago.
Absolutely. I mean, there's many examples that I can give, in terms of one specific gentleman that I'll share is like, Angel Lopez, which is a former NFL player, that grew up in a community. This young man, that grew up in a community now is giving back in a community and furthermore has been working with me and trying to bring other men into the community to help with the current issue that we have. Right. So it's brothers like him that have made it, right? And I think that's what happens often is that we make it and we leave the community and we forget about the community rather than coming back and giving back to the community.
Thank you so much. Angie, before you come in, I have a last follow-up question. Brother Robert, can you emphasize a little bit more on the work that you do in your community in Chicago? First of all, if you can be specific about that community that you represent and the work that you do, a little bit detail regarding the work that you do in that community.
Absolutely. So we work. We're working from Humboldt Park to Belmont Cragen community, which is the northwest side of Chicago. So what we do is assist families that have been affected by gun violence, which means that if there's somebody that's been shot or killed, we usually get the cause and we assist the moms, right? Not only with a visual to stand with them and support, fighting for the justice, right? But also with the support that they need, which is why I have to get off at 6:30 because we have a support group for these mothers and families that have been affected by gun violence. So the support is absolutely needed. This trauma that these moms and families have just continues to stay around and linger around. And that's why it is important for us to assist them, to stand with them, get them the professional help that they need with counseling and support. But furthermore, we knew that we needed to do more, right? Because we heard from these mothers and families affected by gun violence, right? And it's tried to prevent this from happening. Mothers don't want another mother to go through this pain. So what we've learned is, right, is sports is a big way to reach our children. So we've implemented the sports programs. And that's why I think Angel Lopez, I've mentioned him before, was one that was able to help me to bring NFL players, right, former NFL players and sports programs in our community, which has not been done, but was done with the relationship that we've built. So from helping, supporting, from counseling and therapy to even sports program, these are all things that we've continued to do and support families. And also, we also do retreats where we take families outside of the city of Chicago to spend a weekend with them, to reminding them, right, that self-care is so important, but to have workshops, to love upon them, and to let them know that they're not alone.
Angie, thank you so much, Robert. Great response.
So I know the time is winding down for Robert, and again, I thank you all, but I do want to ask this pivotal question because here it is. You all have done, years upon years of work. And you have gotten a lot of experience. I know Lieutenant Allen has. I mean, I don't think anything could probably shock him at this point. But I do want to ask the panel, you all collectively, why do you think men struggle with stepping up? And do you think that it has anything to do with us as women, perhaps coddling? That would be my question. I'll leave it at that before I just go on a tangent.
And let's have Robert respond to that, and then we can go to.
That's a very good question, Angie. I've often, sit down and I think about why is it that we don't have more men that step up to the plate? Why is it that we don't have more men that want to volunteer to be a mentor to our children? So that question is a question that I've often even questioned myself. I don't know why we don't have more men that are standing up and fighting for change, because we are needed. So that is a hard question to ask. I've been doing the work for 11 years, and maybe it's a lack of commitment. I know women, just don't give up. Men, I guess we tend to just do something for a short period of time, and if we don't see things change, then we back off from the situation. When women actually just don't give up, and maybe that might be the situation. I'm not that. I guess I'm a different breed, right? And God has continued to use me as a tool to be present. Because I've heard from these mothers that say we need more men, and often even the mothers don't have their husband next to them. And it's been a challenge for them. And so while they're trying to hold it together for their wives at the home, often you don't see them march with them. You don't see them fight with them. And it's something that we absolutely more men to get involved. It is crucial that we see more men like us that can stand up, be a voice, that our children are looking for, because many children in our community don't have that father figure. And we need to step up to the place so we can be that father figure, so we can mentor them, so we can walk life with them. And that's another thing, is that when we're walking life with these children, it's not something that's going to happen overnight. It may take years. It may take a long time, but we don't give up,
That's
just
right.
like Jesus doesn't. God never gave up on us, right? And doesn't give up on us.
Come on, Reverend.
No, thanks so much, Robert, for a great response. Lieutenant Daniel.
I'll say this: being a youth leader for so many years, me and my wife, what hurts my heart is that most of the events that we have, when we have field trips and we had our concerts and stuff like that, I see the ladies, the mothers and the grandmothers come, but I don't see the men for years. There's a disconnect with our men in general. I think as the police, I think it's more so a generational thing. This the era of TikTok and Facebook, and they don't feel the need to have to physically be out in the field like we did, like men did that was older than us, and guys my middle age, and then the younger guys, a little younger than us, they want a boost to the ground. It's this microwave society that we in, dealing with, like I said, the social media thing that has a lot to do with. They're like, we don't have to come physically go out. I could just tweet it, So I think that has a lot to do with it, and just the power system, the problem systematically of men not stepping up, taking care of their families. Not taking care of their families, they're not going to do nothing to take care of the community.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I think that's where the issue is. How do we get guys to be more in tune with their families is the $1 million question. So,
Right. And I'm glad you said that. Brother Muhammad?
I think that the problem is a spiritual one with the men who have been destroyed because they've been disconnected from God. The Holy Quran says to us that it's the nature of the man to be the maintainer and protector of his family and community. Well, those two things, if those are two attributes of a man, then there's not a lot of men in the community, not because they don't want to be, not because they weren't innately given that nature by God, but that nature hasn't been developed or fed. The educational system has failed the male.
Yes.
The religious system has failed the male. The economic and society absolutely is pitted against the male, and black and brown men in particular. So if the man is to be the head of family, then the issue is what is in the man's head that is supposed to guide the family and the community. The issue is an issue of knowledge. The man doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know that he's supposed to be the maintainer and protector. And so since he doesn't know that, even once he becomes aware of it, he's frustrated because his nature tells him he has the ability to do this, but he doesn't have the knowledge to make it a reality. So we turn in on ourselves. And that's a lot of what we see in the community, unfortunately, today, is males, but not men, because man is made by God. The male is just physiological. And I think it's up to us who are in particular, me and Brother Robert have talked about this many times over the years. If we as men who profess faith, pastors and believers in churches and mosques and synagogues, if we can't come together, then what kind of example are we setting for the young brothers in the community? If we stay divided because, oh, this one calls themselves Muslim, that one calls themselves Christian, and I can't work with them. Well, how do we tell them that they shouldn't gangbang and we're spiritually gangbanging?
Yeah.
Gang banging, religion gang banging with one another. It doesn't make sense. And we this table, just us beginning the conversation, begin the healing process, because all of us have to be at the table, because as Brother Robert mentioned in the beginning, it's really another type of epidemic and pandemic that is happening with the violence in the community. And it's not one church that's going to fix it. It's not one methodology. It's not one organization, but all of us have to be involved because all of us are affected by it.
Yes. Oh.
Wow. That was very deep. Thank you so much, Brother Abel, for sharing those deep thoughts. I think that you really touched a lot of very important points. So I hope that men are out there listening. Definitely, after this, we're going to be cutting this piece. We're going to be all the information you've shared. We're going to be cutting pieces of it and putting it on social media, because we need to have our men understand and hear some of these things that you're sharing. I know Robert needs to go, so Robert, you may want to chime in on what Abel just spoke about, or Brother Daniel, or probably your last words before you leave. And before you leave, I have a surprise for you all. But please go ahead.
No, I'm encouraged for the panel that we have today, and that we're actually, definitely men that are stepping up to the plate. And I hope that men that are listening here, Abel, we've worked together for many, many years. And you're right, we've often spoke about why we don't have more men in our community. The power of unity is needed in our community, and we do. We need the politicians, we need the pastors, we need the police officers. It's what we do together, right? I believe that's the secret sauce that I often say. It's what we do together. The power of unity is what's going to change the current outcome that we have. But men, we have to be that voice. Men, we have to stand up. Men, we have to walk with our women. We have to not only protect them, but we have to be the leader that God has given us, right? Not only in our home, but outside of our buildings and outside of our walls as well.
Before you go, Robert, I know you are going to attend to a gun violence issue that just occurred. Can you give our audience a brief understanding of what took place and what role you're going to be playing right now?
Well, right now I'm actually at a support group meeting that we host every month. So this one is going to be called the Remembrance. So we'll be remembering our children that have been affected by gun violence. This time of the year is very hard for these mothers and families that have been affected by gun violence. So we never forget our children. We never forget our loved ones. And so today this is going to be a remembrance of our children during these hard holidays. We don't have these children at our table. So we're here to support them. We're here to stand with them and, give them their space that they absolutely need. So that's what we're doing tonight. And I'm in the office, and these mothers and families are already arriving. To put it in perspective, we have about 3 tables that are full of children that have been affected by gun violence. But thank you for having me on.
You're so much welcome. And this is the surprise that I have for you. This is Lieutenant Daniel's masterpiece.
Thank you, Robert.
Before I continue the music, Robert, you are free to leave after. At this moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you for having me on. Blessings to all. Bye.
child. You are so great. There's no one like you. Even through my darkest night, feel like no one has my back. Really need to change. There you are. Thought I was about to lose my mind. You came just in time. Victory belongs to you. Change right now. Change your heart. Change belongs to you. Change right now. Change your mind. Change belongs to you. Our God is great. He's all that I need. Many blessings receive. Just look to the hills which come in my help. Believe and you will see. Feel like no one has my back. Really need to change. There you are. Thought I was about to lose my mind. You came just in time. Victory belongs to you. Change right now. Change your heart. Change belongs to you.
Now, I wanted to take a pause. So, Lieutenant Daniel can tell us a little bit about this video. Please go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, the thing behind the video is the song "Change Belongs to You." So, this song was given to me by God because most men and women in the community, I guess, by me seeing so much mental health, me seeing so many people who say I just can't do it, seeing so much suicide, bothered my soul. In the middle of the night, God gave me this song. And what the message I'm trying to relate to people is that change belongs to you. You are the one that can make the change. Don't let nobody tell you that you cannot change. That power of change belongs to you. You have that strength. And so in the video, basically, it's showing two young men. One young man is in the street selling narcotics. Another young man lost his job. And they both given up. But they're both hearing the voice of God is bothering them. So what they decide to do is like, I can't take this no more. So they're hearing the music at the church. The guy on the street selling narcotics, he's hearing the music at the street. The other guy that lost his job, he has a background in Christ, and it's just bothering them. And both of them says, forget this. Let's just go to church and try to see God, to seek help. And when they get to church and they see the praise team singing about change belongs to you, it just gives them validation on the fact that they can change their lives.
Thank you so much for that background. Angie, what do you think of that clip?
I mean, I think it's wonderful. Change is inevitable. You decide if it's a good change or a bad change. And so I think it's essential to have played that because, isn't that what we in essence want altogether? Yes. We want a positive change. We want to be able to actually have men step up and be the providers and the protectors that we need them to be. But I also have found that we can't do any of this until we find our purpose. And I think that that's one of the things that our men today may struggle with. Particularly in the streets. I work on the west side of Chicago, so I see so much on a regular basis. And so this song epitomizes, what needs to take place. A change needs to take place. Who can help you with that change? God above.
Is this your first album, Daniel?
No, I wrote many songs. I never really done an album per se. I've done quite a few singles.
Singles, right?
And this was the latest single that I've done.
Okay.
So yeah.
And so this song is on YouTube currently.
Yes, it is.
And the title is "Change Belongs to You."
Yes, yes.
All right. So if you're watching us, you can always go on YouTube and check the song.
Yes.
Change belongs to you. Change belongs to you, and it's necessary that we all participate in making our society a better place. So thank you so much, Daniel, for being obedient to the inspiration and to the calling, the inspiration of the Holy Spirit to put this song out. Because we hear all the time, all of us hear, but the discipline and the sacrifice to put forward what God has given us, or what God is telling us is what it takes a lot of work. So we really appreciate that.
What did you think about it, Brother Abel?
It's beautiful. It's right on time because this is what people don't have hope and inspiration today. And it was very real, you know, how many people are losing their jobs and there are not enough jobs. And if that's where our hope is, there is no hope, you know. So if we're looking for an answer from the wrong source, we're not going to get it. And it's beautiful because there's a verse in the Holy Quran that says God never changes the condition of a people until they change within themselves. And I think that's the essence of the song, because God gives you what you need to change, but then each of us has to decide, as you mentioned, Sister Angie, what kind of change are we going to make? He doesn't make slaves out of us. God frees us and allows us to choose.
Yes.
His mercy and beneficence, but he gives us the tools to make the right decision.
That's right.
And the problem today is Satan has made evil fair seeming. So he makes it seem like the right decision is the quick, easy one that seems to get you out of a financial bind, but it leads you to see Lieutenant Daniel and end up on the other side of his ministry. Behind bars.
The other side of his ministry.
That's what we don't want. And that's what we don't want. But there are two sides. Whatever we choose, a man in particular, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan taught us that a man is the really total outcome of his decisions that he makes in life. That's what a man is. And if we look at our decisions, how good are we? You know, and we want to be better, and we can be better. And that's why we need more songs like that, more inspiration, more police officers that have another side to them, that it's not just law enforcement. He's trying to keep people out of that side. And it's really a blessing. And it's really something that each and every human being, regardless of our profession, should be doing. If you're a teacher, if you're a host of a radio station, if you have a business, your objective and purpose is not to just make money to provide for you and your family. Of course, you need to do that. That's basic. But beyond that, your family is affected by the neighborhood and by the community. So any negative influences in the community, we should be at the forefront as men, whether it's through music, whether it's through standing on the corner and talking to people, whether it's through making a program, whatever we can do. All of us have a lane that we can get in to hopefully benefit the whole of our people, because our families are going to end up being victimized by the community that they live in. We can't build a shelter, or we don't grow up on an island. We're all connected to one another, positively and negatively.
Absolutely. Once again, thank you so much for sharing, Abel. And earlier on, you made a very powerful connection between church, or I would say religion, and man's responsibility in leadership. And that was very profound. But the thing, though, that you hear a lot in communities, on the streets, when you speak to friends, is that a lot of the youth, or I'll say millennials, are leaving the church. There is this new wave of going back to ancestry and all types of religious or spiritual beliefs. A lot of the millennials are now into spiritualism. Now, so how can we reconcile that? How can we let people understand that from what you just said, Christ, the Prophet Muhammad, all taught us leaders, their lives were exemplary for us to follow. Do you think that church leaders or religious leaders need to do a lot more teaching when it comes to leadership? Because you don't hear a lot of that. It's probably the reason why the youth are leaving the church. The millennials are leaving the church. I don't have the answers, but do you think that maybe religious leaders need to focus a lot more on teaching of men taking leadership roles, just like you brilliantly articulated?
You know, brother, I've been blessed that I just this Sunday finished a 4-week, for 4 Sundays in a row. I was invited to a Christian church to teach their sermon for 4 weeks in Pilsen, in the Mexican community here. And it's all black and brown, mostly young men under 30 years old that come. But they come because we don't call it church. We were calling it Sunday sessions because many of these young people had experienced what they called church hurt, where they saw the hypocrisy of a pastor who would preach one thing from the pulpit, but then they'd see them mistreating the grandmother or the waitress at a restaurant, and it didn't equate with them. And this generation, they're going to spirituality because they're really, and rightfully so, they've been disappointed by the leadership within the religious institutions because we're asking them to do what we say, but we're not setting the example. And what they want today, this is not a generation that you can tell, do what I say, not what I do. They will only follow you if you're authentic, meaning not that we're perfect. None of us are perfect, but if they see you striving, they'll follow you. They'll listen to you. They're looking for somebody in particular as young males. They want somebody that they can trust. They're looking for the chink in the armor. They're looking for the frailty. But if we can be strong and real men and show them, no, I'm not perfect. Let me connect you to the perfect one through Christ, through the prophets, to God himself. They'll go with us. They'll walk with us. And I've been blessed twice now, 2 times. I did 4-week stints in March, and now I just finished at this same church. And these young brothers and some sisters that are there, but it's mostly men, probably about 60-70% men, which is very unusual. They're coming at 10:30 on a Sunday morning after being up partying all night. And they're coming to hear a spiritual word, but they don't want dogma. They don't want to just be preached to. They want to be taught, and they want to be able to be given tools that allow them to fix and address their problems. A lot of them come from broken homes where they have bad relationships with their mother and their father. So can you imagine how broken a human being is when they're not connected properly to the 2 physical sources of their life?
Yeah.
And so this is what we have the responsibility of now, but it's written in the scriptures, you know, that when we know the Christ, if you know that one, the Messiah, then he comes to mend the brokenhearted. He comes to heal and bring together that which was divided. So that's something that we should be able to do, but we can't do it in a dogmatic or narrow way where we're just simply trying to shepherd them into a church entity. No, we have to really be the church and have the church in us and learn to plant it in them so that it can grow in them. And they may not call themselves at first Christian or Muslim, but they'll start to live by the principles. And eventually, as they mature, they'll find their way to the truth if we are being truthful with them.
I just love that. Oh my, right, Senator, right? Right. I wanted to ask Lieutenant Allen a question too, but I would be so remiss if I didn't acknowledge the ladies in your lives. So I believe it's Sister Ayana Muhammad.
Yes.
That is Brother Abel Muhammad's wife. And so I want to say, a cheery hello to you. And thank you so much for, letting us borrow your husband and get some of this good spiritual food. And then I also want to acknowledge Lady Victoria Allen. She's definitely a cheerleader for Lieutenant Allen. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the women in your households. But to that point that you were making about being taught and not preached at, Lieutenant Allen, you are, like I said, Lieutenant Allen he's been a tremendous support in years past, whether it was through the school or through the church. And so with you having over 25 years of experience within the Chicago Police Department and having, saw the need to, in essence, start a different organization that would kind of work parallel to what it is that you're trying to do, what do you think are men's fundamental problems? Or let me ask you this. Why do you think, after so many arrests, after so many pep talks, that men are struggling to get on the right path? I know Brother Abel Muhammad addressed it, but I want to hear your perspective from a police perspective.
Mm.
Oh, boy. Money, money, money. But Abel did hit the nail on the head. I mean, they are misled by the serpent. The serpent is guiding them to make money the way that they should not make money, the easy money. So, you know, these young men are in an environment that they can't take themselves out of that environment. So that's why it is so important for us to be us leaders, to try to talk to these young men. That program that Mr. Abel was talking about, I would love to visit that program. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, I gotta give kudos to Pastor Phil Jackson at the Firehouse. He has a similar program. He does some amazing things. He reaches young men by being very, very transparent. And I think that's the key. I think it's just the system, the criminal justice system. It allows young men to get out of jail. I tell you that, because we are arresting repeat offenders. So, and there are a million. By me being a community, before I made lieutenant, I was the community sergeant for 9 years in the 11th district. And I personally used to put on job fairs, resource fairs, and I know a lot of other people that did put on job fairs and resource fairs. So we will bring the jobs and we'll bring the resources to the areas that had the highest violence, what had the highest amount of loitering at, and they was like not interested. A lot of them were not interested. I know people say we could just reach one, but that's not good enough for me. I want to reach more than one. But I remember one day we did a event. We took a block back. I'll leave that block nameless, but we took that block back. It was saturated with narcotics selling. And one of the young men came up to me and said, "Y'all out here trying to make us take jobs. We don't want no jobs." They asked my commander at the time, how much did he make? He told them how much he made. And they told him, "I make what you make in he said in 2 weeks." So the attraction of the fast cash, these music videos, all of this negative attention that they receive on social media, and at the end of the day, it comes down to the men. They're not there to guide them. So it's like a combination of things.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant Daniel, Abel, Mr. Abel Mohammed. We will take a short break. When we come back, this very important conversation will continue. The role of men in building our communities, and we're taking the perspectives from these brilliant Black men. And so we encourage that you keep sharing the feed if you're watching us on Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitter. When we come back, the conversation will continue. But please remember that we need you to share this feed so that we can continue healing our communities together. We shall be right back after this short break.
Aglo, Aglo, Aglo. Aglo Bolingbrook Lighthouse is a network of caring women. We are a dynamic global movement with a single mission to see God's purpose fulfilled on earth as it is in heaven. Our mandate is every nation touched and every heart changed for God. We invite you to our prayer meeting every Saturday and breakfast meeting held every last Saturday of the month from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. via Zoom meeting. For more information, please contact Dickness Rebecca Modi at 630-297-1471 or Reverend George Ofe Ado, our advisor, at 630-414-9505. We look forward to having a refreshing time with you in the Lord. Thank you and stay blessed.
A cry in my heart.
Welcome back to the Progressive Mind Show. My name is Alinko, and I'm being co-hosted this evening by my brilliant queen, Angie Mims. And we are talking to this great gentleman in the person of Mr. Abel Mohammed and Lieutenant Daniel Allen. Earlier, we had Mr. Robert Torres, who also contributed immensely to the show, but he had to attend to community duties. And so we are really appreciative of him. If you just join us, one thing you can do is to keep putting the message out by sharing it so that there's very important information it can disseminate into our communities so we can be better people as we all wish for. Thank you so much for some of the comments that have come through. Angie, if you want to do, I think we have one comment from Lemon Williams.
Hey, Lamont, I didn't know that he was on. He says, I'm willing to train young guys to do home repairs. And you know what? I just want to stop right there. He's not telling the story. I know Brother Lamont, he is very much so hands-on and definitely a person who, you know, gets in the trenches. So thank you so much, you know, for that comment, Lamont. He's definitely a willing man. I can vouch for that.
All right. Thank you so much, Lamont.
Hey, Johnny. Pastor West says young boys and men need to see more professional men who look like them. Isn't that powerful?
Yeah.
Yes.
And do you think we have Mr. Abel Mohammed and Lieutenant Daniel, do you think we have a lot of these exemplary leaders or men that these young men need to see and follow? Before that, I'm sorry, I just have a comment that I wanted Angie to read, but I didn't want to forget the question. That's why I put it out there. So I'll have Angie read this comment and then we'll come back to it.
So John Williams says again, we have to stop judging them. I have so many questions right now, but go ahead, Senna.
No, I just wanted to, because of the question, the gentleman, I think because of the previous comment, I just wanted to see if they have something to say with regards to us, the Black people, having enough leaders to look up to.
Mm-hmm. I think, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that are a spotlight on them, but that doesn't make them leaders.
Okay.
And I think that's where the problem is. You know, we have a lot of celebrities, famous people, right? But fame does not make one a leader. And I think that's where we get into trouble, when we start looking to our rappers who have leadership qualities, no doubt. But if your focus is your music and not your people, you're not their leader. And I think that's where we've gotten into very murky waters in recent years, because now with the whole, you know, social media cancel culture, if you say something that it can be a soundbite taken and manipulated a certain way, now you'll have a whole community saying that you should be canceled, that you shouldn't be, your voice shouldn't be heard, even if you are striving to do something good for the community, because there are other groups whose interest is not the good of our community. You know, there's an organization, it's a Black-owned store in that same church I was telling you all about. When you walk into this church in the Mexican community, you walk into a pop-up store owned by a Black man. And his business is called Trap House Chicago. With the word trap means truth reaching all people. And what he does is he's an artist and he's an educator, and he puts shirts with messages on them. So the front of the shirt says crime pays. And then on the back, he lists all of the agencies that benefit whenever our people commit crimes and go to jail. Wow. So he's very much about making people think and pricking the conscience, but he does it in a way that the young people connect with. And I'm saying that to say that there has to be absolutely a tangible component to what we do. Right. See, that's leadership, not just having an idea, but putting your money where your mouth is, going out on the front line, being with the people like Brother Lieutenant Daniel is doing through his ministry with his wife as well. He's not just saying, well, I'll just wait for you here, and when you get arrested, then I'll help you. We have to be proactive. We have to be on the offensive now, our young people. And the problem is there are figureheads.
He's not.
As,
And when you get arrested,
I'm sorry. It looks like we have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Caller, please turn down the device you're watching the show on down. Okay, please go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just saying that I think that's the problem is we have people who are famous, but they're not real leaders of the community.
What I'm trying to say to you, I don't
Mr.
think
Abel,
this
please
can
hold
be
on 1
fixed.
second. Caller, can you tell us your name and where you're calling from?
My name is Pupi. I'm calling from Bolingbroke.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say to you, you don't think this thing? I don't think this can be fixed. I don't think so.
You don't think that we can encourage more black men to take leadership roles in our communities?
No, I don't think we can be fixed because now
why?
When you watch it, what I'm trying to say to you, when you watch it, little kids having kids, and they didn't grow up here to have kids and say, let me brainwash my kid to make him a better person in this planet. But what I'm trying to say to you, before we would do that, I think we have to find a way to people who are having kids and they grow up and having kids, and then the kids also, they don't give them good education because education starts from home. So because of that, I don't think this is going to be fair. We're going to keep on talking about this for a long time, and it's going to be more chaos coming up. So, that's the way I feel.
Okay, so you don't have any hope at all?
No, there's no
optimism. Okay, that's fine. Can you hold on? I would want Brother Abel to respond to you.
Brother, I could see why, because if you look at the statistics, I would agree with you. But there's another factor that we have to always weigh in, and where is God in this equation? Does God see the condition of a people?
Yes.
If we believe that Moses came to a people that had been enslaved for 4 centuries, and God heard their moaning and their groaning, and he stepped in and affected a change. If he could do that for those people some almost 4,000 plus years ago, if he could send a messenger 1,400 years ago to Arabia, to the Arabs who were burying their girl children, that's how in a terrible condition they were. They were tribes fighting and killing one another. And yet he sent them a messenger with a message, and within a generation, they rose up and were the civilizers of Europe and the rest of the world. Then that shows us that you're right. If what we're looking to is this educational system and this system, there is no hope. But our hope doesn't come from this system. It comes from the Lord of the worlds. And that's where we have to reconnect. And that's really why our community is broken. The men are broken and our family is broken because we're disconnected from the source of all of that, which is God.
Brother Kofi.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't make, because what I'm trying to say to you.
I heard you giggle a little bit because, and I feel like that giggle tells me that what he said gave you a little bit of hope, but you just want to stand on your ground.
No, the moment you put God inside, now you make everything bad.
Why does what he said? I mean, why does God being in the equation make?
Because let me say something to you. About 3-4 weeks ago, I got shot. When I got shot, they tried to take me to the hospital. I told them I got something to do, so I took the bullet out and I said, "Seal it up. I'm going to have something to do," because I don't want to go to the hospital to stay there for a long time. But what I'm trying to say to you, because with God, you can shoot somebody and God will forgive you.
Right. Okay. So I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from.
I can go and shoot somebody. I can steal. I can do whatever I want to do. I will go in my house and nobody's watching. I say, "Please, God, forgive me." And I say, "Oh, God, forgive me." And then the next day I'll go and do the same thing again.
But don't you think that if we have more men taking leadership roles, perhaps that young man who shot you may have gotten the opportunity to meet this God?
They have to find a way to put a system out that people will stop making too much babies. That's the problem.
Well, so you think people having kids is the problem, not leadership?
Yeah, it's the problem, because most of the young kids that they are not growing up finished, they have kids, they don't know what to say to them.
Please.
Okay.
Let me ask him something, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Kofi, do you believe in God?
Believe in God?
Yes.
Which one? Which one? The one in the Bible or the one that we don't see him?
This man.
Okay. All right. Okay. So Kofi,
No, I'm asking you a question. Which God you want? You ask me if I believe.
do you
one?
believe in any God at all, whether he's in the water or in the air? Any God at all? Personally, do you have any God that you believe in?
I don't believe the God in the one in the Bible is always forgive people.
Okay, so which one do you believe in?
I believe in a word that you just have to be good.
So
good.
So
good.
you don't believe
have to go through.
So you don't believe in any God?
No.
Okay.
What I believe in you live in a system that you have to be good to each other.
Okay.
That's the only thing I believe.
Okay. So his point is made.
God, but the moment you start putting God, then yourself, you don't have a faith.
Okay.
If you can be good by yourself and you have to wait God, because of God you are good, then there's something wrong with you.
Okay. Great point. I mean, great. You made your point.
You understand me?
Yes.
You need to go to God. To go to God before to believe, to know the good, what is good to do. Then there's something wrong with you because because it's not because of God you have to be good. The good is that you grown up with that good inside you. Let me tell you something. I have a kid who said 13 years old. Anytime I'm going to buy something with his money, he always asks me, bring me receipt back. I want to see how much money, if you took some of my money or that receipt, that's the way you show a kid. So when he grew up, I told my kids, I don't want them to make babies.
Okay, so you've made great points. You've made your points, and we really appreciate it. Lieutenant Daniel and Brother Abel they have all been listening. I don't know if Lieutenant Daniel would like to respond to any of the comments he's made.
No, I mean,
no. Okay, perhaps Brother Abel.
The only thing I would say, brother,
Kofi.
Brother Kofi, I agree with you. I don't believe in a God that forgives everyone, because then there would be no day of judgment. Yeah. So that there is a judgment, and I don't believe that's a false God as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I'm even more hopeful for what I'm looking at, because these children having children, they didn't put themselves in this condition. But a just God would know how to deal with the condition, rectify it before issuing a judgment, because he's a God of justice, not some immaterial being that we have to pretend about. He's the supreme of beings. And I think that's something we have to always remember. He's not unreal. He's not unreachable. He's tangible. He's as real as you and I, and he can affect our lives. I'm a witness of it. I was one that was on my way as a teenager, failing and falling out of school because I didn't have a purpose for my life. I loved God. I didn't do good because I didn't know God. I wanted to know him better. When I found that teaching that gave my life purpose, I didn't need to do things because I wanted to, make it to some blessing from God. I did good for goodness sake. I did right because I liked sleeping well at night, knowing I didn't rob anyone, knowing I didn't cheat anyone, not having to look over my shoulder. I like having that clearness of mind that comes when you're at peace with yourself and your Lord is well pleased with you. And I think we're saying the same thing, just from two different perspectives. As I mentioned earlier, the Quran says that Allah never changes. God never changes the condition of a people till they change themselves. So it's not that we're doing this because God is going to change it, but God will give us what we need to bring about what is in our hearts, especially when what is in our hearts is to do good to others. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us that the best religion is not Christianity or Islam, but it's to do unto others as you would want done unto you.
Okay. Kofi, I am sure that this has given you a glimpse of hope.
Yeah, but I understand. I understand exactly what he means. But what I'm trying to say to him, the Allah and God, the moment you start raising a kid and you don't show him what good means, and you always gonna tell the kid that let's go to a church or let's go to the mosque before you learn how to be good. That's a problem, because your mind, you have to find a way to bring the full development of that mind. to know that mind know that if I'm going this path, problem gonna happen.
Yeah.
But when you try to introduce God, say because of God you're gonna get to that point, then there's something wrong gonna come. Because if the kid don't understand that God, if you teach him from home, that don't go this way, go this way, go this way. My phone is dying, man. I'll talk to you guys. I'll listen to you guys on
but I think you and him are making the same point. So thank you so much. Okay, and we really appreciate you for calling, Kofi. He is a regular caller into the show, and he has his opinions, and they are very interesting. But great points, Kofi. We really appreciate it. For all of you who have sent in your comments, we also do appreciate you a lot. This one came from Lemont Williams. Angie.
The Bible says what we see and what we hear get in our spirit.
Absolutely.
Yes. John Williams says there is only one God. Rashandra says, oh my God. Hi, good evening, Angie Mills.
Good evening, Rashonda. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. But it's good though. We may laugh and giggle here and there, but it is good to listen because you need to hear what the argument is. And just because someone doesn't agree with you does not mean that their point is not necessarily valid. Some people are just very passionate. Some people have had clearly different life experience. Clearly you can hear Kofi has an accent. So it is safe to say that he may have not been born here, and so, but it is also to give credit to what he's already seen and what he's already witnessed here in the States. And so, there are different things that even though I cringed a little bit when he said what God or whatever, because I get very sensitive. We'll talk about Jesus now, but in that same breath though, it strengthens us because you need to be able to let your fellow brother and or sister know, that I hear you. And a lot of people have been talked at, Bible thumped,
right?
But you've not dealt with the issue at hand because it doesn't correlate with your upbringing, and it's actually indicative of your actual ignorance. I forgive my candor, and that's what it is. You don't know. And so if we're going to be ambassadors for God, trying to model and mirror the examples that have been set before us in the Holy Quran, the Bible for me, we have to be able to hear it at least and try to see where they're coming from. The last thing that I'll say is we all have some sort of convoluted perspectives, right? But it is God that kind of helps us get back onto the right path if we're willing. I love what Brother Abel Muhammad did. He immediately had a flashback and went back to his teen years when he probably wasn't the perfect teenage young man that he could have been, or that would have made his parents proud during that moment in history. However, haven't we all been, who's without sin, who is without sin? And so going back to the topic at hand, how would you all handle this? Lieutenant Allen, I am sure you've seen this and others, when it comes to perhaps being labeled, oh, he's got mental problems, and then leaving it alone versus dealing with it. How would you handle that?
For the purposes of our audience, I would like to give a little clarification on what Kofi said before you come in. So, Lieutenant Daniel, please give me 1 second. Knowing that he's from Africa, and I'm from Africa, from Ghana too, so I can understand some of the things he's trying to talk about, which is the over-reliance of Africans, a lot of Africans, on religion. And in that, a lot of times we overly shed our responsibility to the God and religious entities or structures that we worship at. This is what I'm trying to say. Because we are so religious people, for those who are Christians or Muslims, right after you're born, there's a high tendency of you being handed the Bible or the Quran, and you are taught the principles in there. You are taken to the mosque or the church. And so if in many cases, you tend to only hold the line of whatever religion you were introduced to. And you sometimes lack the basics, because your conscience, you have to be trained to understand and know good from bad as a person. And then when you add the principles of God to what you already know, it makes you a better person. And I think that's the point he's trying to come from. And also when you talked about kids having kids in Africa, it's very much frowned upon. If you are a teenager, you are scared to even get pregnant because you know the consequences. Now, whether the people in the community will check you, your parents will scare you to death if you ever get anybody pregnant as a young man or as a young lady. If you're a young lady, you dare not get pregnant. And if you're a young man, you dare not get anybody pregnant, at least up until you are out of university, we call it, or college. Once you are out of college, say 25, even 25, you are not allowed to. So maybe 30. Once you have a college, you have a job. So those are the two key things. Go to school or find a job. Once you have a job, you live on your own, then you can think of having babies. And so that is entrenched in the culture back in Africa, specifically Ghana. So when you come to the United States and you are exposed to these things, right? You can 18, 19, you can do whatever you want and all of that. It's strange to you. And sometimes if you need to wear two lenses to understand the background of why things are like this in America, or this society has this culture of young people having kids. And so that is where he is coming from. And I feel like, yes, lack of leadership, lack of Black men, leading in the family, in the communities, perhaps contributes to a lot of teenage pregnancies, or maybe a lot of some of this having children out of wedlock that we have in society. Nobody's blaming anybody, but there are root causes to some of these things that we are seeing. And I believe that the lack of Black men playing leadership roles or taking leadership initiatives in minority communities, whether Black or brown, is one of the reasons why we're having these challenges. But Lieutenant Daniel, you can go ahead. And please feel free to comment on what I just said, Brother Abel, after Lieutenant Daniel.
You're on mute.
Absolutely. When I thought about it, I was going to actually talk to the gentleman, because what I thought about was segueing back to the topic of the role of men in the community. So religion, and I get his point, and I understand what we're saying here is that we don't want to like pound religion in people's head. So like some of these young people, like as I patrol, or it was when I was the community sergeant, and we did what we would call pop-ups in the community, where we would bring resources to the community. And sometimes we have a speaker and we'll play gospel music. And I've had young people tell me they would yell profanity to cut that off. They don't want to hear that S. So the great way of reaching people, even if you're spiritual, reaching young men, if you're spiritual, whether you're spiritual or not, is to lead them and meet them where they're at. That's what I noticed was the most. My program I had, Beyond Rhythm and Rhyme.
Sorry, looks like we have a caller on the line. I'm sorry, I think that was what was causing the interruption in your feed. But Lieutenant Daniel, if you can give us 1 second. Caller, please tell us your name and why you're calling.
My name is the same, and I like to listen to the radio.
So this is Kofi. This is Kofi again.
Yeah, this is Kofi, because the lady, she said she was trying to, because of God, that's why she had patience. And I was watching her, and she said because of God, that's why she keep a cool down. But what I'm trying to say to you guys, maybe you guys don't understand it. God don't make you mad or make you soft. You learn those things from home.
Okay.
You don't learn it from God.
Okay.
You don't say because of God, so I'm a little bit calm. You don't say because of God, I'm a little bit high. Those things, you show a kid how to grow up that way.
Okay. All right.
Do you understand?
We understand.
You show a kid there's a threat coming. If there's something going to happen, a kid already knows that let me pull back.
Okay.
Let me go for it. When somebody hits you, how you respond back. You show that God don't make you. The moment God start making you that way, that means you don't even believe in God.
Okay. So Kofi, we understand your point. You have a great opinion, and we respect it. However, Kofi, you have your own opinion. We're all sharing. So to you, that's the truth, right?
No, that's because why God can make you mad or make you happy.
Okay, good. Good. So everybody has their truth too. So we appreciate your truth, and we do respect it.
No, but I just want her to understand. So God is the one who make her do those things, or she do it from her own will.
Well, okay. She'll respond to that, but we so that we can get the guest to also respond to what you said. We would like to we'd like to hear from her. So just thank you for ringing in and reiterating your point.
Maybe I can learn something from her. I just want to know if God make you go up or go down, or you do it from your own mind. You know that this is wrong. I can't go there, or somebody's talking this with me. Let me pull back and find a way to talk to the person so the person can come down.
Okay, so you want her to respond, Kofi. You want her to respond. Okay, go ahead, Angie. She's listening. She's going to respond to you. Angie, I think you're on mute.
His question was, does God make me go up or does God make me down?
Basically,
that's what I heard him say.
Right, exactly. But what he's trying to say is the things you do, are they influenced by the guidance of the Holy Spirit, or you do them by your own volition and with your own consciousness?
As a person who has been hung from windows with knives across my neck, as a person who has survived rape, let me explain something to you. Nothing but God could have gotten me out of those situations. How I grew up, yes, I was introduced to God, but much like my brother Abel Muhammad, I wasn't always God crazy. And I grew up in the church and despised being there all the time. So during my straying, if you will, it cost me a lot. I'll leave my past where it is. However, it wasn't until I had lost my way, when I didn't necessarily have the support that I thought that I had, when I was homeless, carless, jobless, with a son who was a high-risk pregnancy, that I realized that nobody could help me that moment. That is my experience. And please believe me, at that time I wasn't reading the Bible or the Quran or the Torah or any other religious book. All I had was a cry for God to intervene. So when you ask the pivotal question, does God make me go up or down? Does the Holy Spirit influence my decisions? By all means. My mind is too finite to figure out all the things of the world, particularly during that stage in my life. So I can say without question that yes, God does determine the ups and the downs. Nevertheless, it is up to me to want to learn his way, figure out the world system, as you mentioned before, and navigate through life so that I can be an example to my son. So it is not the over-reliance of religion as much as it is a personal relationship that I grew to have with God. See, the thing about God is I believe someone mentioned earlier. He doesn't force you. You have your own volition. You have your own right. He doesn't make you say, huh, you will submit to me. He gives you that choice. Nobody can make you do anything at all. But if you decide, I've seen enough, there is no God. I've witnessed enough, there is no God, then you're entitled to that. But as for me, in my situations, I wanted help, and I almost told God, if you're real, come and see about me. That's it.
Thank you. Caller Kofi, I hope that responds to the question that you asked.
Yeah, I know what she just said. I'm sorry about what she went through. But what I'm trying to say to you,
Kofi, because we have to move to the next question and get Kofi, respectfully. She had shared her story and responded to the question that you asked, right? Yeah. And to follow up to say what you're trying to tell her again is, I feel will be for now. I would encourage you to hold on to it.
I'm not trying to tell her. I'm not trying to.
I would encourage you to hold on to it. We'll take the next call, and then maybe if you want to ask Abel another question, or maybe ask Daniel.
No, I'm not asking question. I'm not asking question. But what I'm trying to say to you, I said, when you have a
Kofi, I really want you to respect the lady's comments she made. And Kofi, let me land. Kofi, let me land. Okay, please. If you want to say something outside the conversation or the question or with her response, that's fine. You have been on the same subject for some time. We have listened to you. She has responded. Our guest has also responded. I really want you to respect our guest and not necessarily poke another question to what she has already responded to. If what you're going to say is in connection to what has already been responded to, I will respectfully say, let's hold on to that. Maybe next week when we come back, we can continue. If not, we will respectfully ask that we end that subject right now and then go back to our guest. Would that be fair, please? Okay. Thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Now, let's go to Brother Abel and Lieutenant Daniel. Please, if you want to maybe respond to what Angie had shared, because Angie, and I just want to say thank you for sharing. I've known you for some time now. You never share this, and sorry to hear, of course, what you've been through. It only takes God to get people through what you have been through. We all have personal stories. I have mine. Being stopped by the police, different situations for not doing anything, escaped certain accidents that I shouldn't have escaped from. So I also know what God has done for me personally. And once again, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story. I know it's motivated somebody, and it will keep motivating and inspiring people. Brother Abel, Lieutenant Daniel, if you want to respond to it, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll jump in on what I was trying to say. I'm on. You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. What I was trying to say briefly was that even if your context is spirituality, a good leader, a good male leader, brings young men to them without necessarily being a Bible thumper, as Angie was saying. You just want to bring the relative resources that you have. Like in my case, outside of the police department, I bring music to young people. So I attract them through music. I bring them to my program, and what I do is we have peace circles, and we talk about, and I develop them to be artists. And I don't, like I said, I don't Bible thump to them. Even though, I do want them to find Christ. Of course I do, because I'm a Christian. But I don't force that on them. So a lot of times most of us as male leaders, we're not forcing religion on these young men when we're trying to get them out of the street. We're trying to get them to be positive leaders, whether they know God or not, whether their mothers had them when they was 13 and they don't know no better. we want to be just like Jesus. We want to be out there in the streets, reaching the people that need to be reached the most. And I don't think that most of us that are spiritual, we rely strictly on church, so to speak, to bring people to really don't cultivate young people. I think a good leader, you reach them where they at, and then from there, it can blossom from there. So,
all right, thank you so much, Brother Abel.
Yeah, I agree totally with Brother Lieutenant Daniel there. Because in truth, if you really want to make a believer, you have to be one yourself first. So it's not about what we say, it's our way that wins people, and our objective, especially with these young people, is life or death, literally, potentially for any of them. So we have to be less concerned with them joining a congregation or a building and more concerned with them changing their life. If they change the life, the mosque and the church will become full naturally. But it starts with changing the way that they think. And that's where the real challenge is. How do we present to them something new? Okay. How do we present to them a new way of thinking? Because until they have a new way of thinking, they're going to approach every problem with the same intelligence or lack thereof in terms of information that they've been dealing with, and it has gotten them into these situations. So we need to approach them with a new way of thinking, and it really starts with giving them hope.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Before I ask my next question, I just want to make this clear. This is a community platform. This is a place where we give voice to the voiceless. We have conversations. Everybody's opinion is welcomed. But we do encourage everyone to bear with each other, be more appreciative of each other's opinions. And so we really, if anybody has been unnecessarily touched in any way that is not conformative to what you're used to, we want to say that is our platform does not allow for anyone to heckle or anyone to not listen to anyone's opinion. All opinions are respected. And so we want to continue the conversation on the role of men in building our communities. And we're listening to the perspective of these wonderful, brilliant Black leaders. And we really want to thank you for being on the show so far. It's 7:32 p.m. We're trying to wrap up in a little bit. We really want to appreciate your time for being on this long. One important question that I have for you gentlemen, is that who is a leader? What are some of the traits that somebody can identify that should trigger that thing that we say, okay, I am a leader or you are a leader. Let me harness this and be better at it. I'll start with Brother Abel.
That's a wonderful question, brother. I think the number one quality that has to be in leadership is love. Love of God, love of God's messengers and prophets, and love of the people to whom God sends his prophets and messengers. Because if you don't love the people, then you're not in tune with the Creator and why he would send guidance to human beings. So I think that is the number one attribute, if you will, or characteristic, followed secondly by humility. Because the leader is not involved in what he's doing for self-aggrandizement or for fame or money. He's there truly out of love and service for the people, to see the people lifted out of whatever negative condition they may be in. And I think the closer we get to that standard of leadership, the better we'll be.
Thanks for a great response. And I think that you can go ahead. I don't know if you were through, because we just had a call coming through, and I think
No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
That you can guess who was calling to the show, but I will let Brother Abel finish his point.
No, I was done, dear brother.
Okay.
Daniel can go.
Brother Lieutenant Daniel, I don't know if you have any response to the question that I just asked.
Okay. Absolutely. The number one thing that I've had success with is transparency.
Okay.
When I talk to young men, and I sit and talk to them as if I'm one of them, within reason, of course. I've had guys with my After School Matters program, when they first found out I was the police, what I do with my program my after school models program, I initially don't tell them I'm a police. I'm just a musician, I'm a singer, songwriter, and I'm training you guys how to be such. Once they find out I'm the police, I had one young man pinch me before and said, "You really a human being?" Yeah, I'm a human being. You know, so being transparent and getting on their level, so to speak, they see that, oh my God, I've had young men now who are in their 20s who've told me I am now a leader of my own program because I learned from you how to relate to young people by being transparent, talking about your issues that you may have had, even your current struggles. You know, you can share some of your current struggles and say, hey, but I'm working on it. God is working on me. But in the meantime, I need you to get back on that piano. You know what I mean? So that's it.
Thank you for your response. I really appreciate it. Angie, I don't know if you have a follow-up comment or question, but I have.
I liked what Lieutenant Allen just said. He didn't, start blaring, over the loud horn that I'm the police and I've been working this community. He just, if they ask, I'm assuming you just responded with, I'm a singer. And I think that's the other part that goes with leadership, is to be humble. And Brother Abel Muhammad started out his first statement was to lead with love, and he also mentioned earlier about how we have to be willing to serve others. And we do get the misconstrued perspective about, just being so consumed with power. But, here it is, Lieutenant Allen, I know that he's a well-respected leader in the community. However, he doesn't, how some people can be, they're arrogant and full of themselves. He doesn't have that. Same thing with student minister, Brother Abel Muhammad. This man talks to thousands all the time, hundreds of people. He's come to my church, but there's a level of humility there, and he's able and he's interested in helping to give us and teach us the fundamentals. And I think that with my observations when it comes to men, without you all and other men like you, we really would be, an even worse shape. And so we thank God for men like you, because I really would be lost, if I didn't have a strong father, if I didn't have strong men around me. And that's the other point that I wanted to ask as we prepare to shut down, is as a person who grew up around strong men, like handymen, men who were like real providers or whatever. That was back then. Do you think that is a dated expectation to have when it comes to the expectations of the previous roles that men stepped up to? Or is it our perception that has become quite narrow-minded as to what the man's role is in the family dynamic and in the community? Do you think that's dated?
Well, yeah.
I would say yes and no. Like I said earlier, it's more using social media than it is being hands-on with young men, from what I'm seeing. So even our younger guys that's like in their 30s and 40s and 50s, they tend to want to rely on social media more so to reach people, reach the younger generation, because how they're looking at it is that the younger generation is all about social media. So I'm gonna meet them where I'm at. So I'm gonna be on social media, and that's how they connect with them. The disconnect is we need more people to be hands-on. Like my former pastor, the late Reverend Milton Bronson, who was the best youth leader in the world without even being titled a youth leader, because he has had that connection with us men, young men. And I think we do lack more hands-on male leadership, but versus social media.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know that it's outdated as much as it needs to be revisited because of the context that we're in today. Today, there's confusion about how you even define a man and a woman. People have these gender fluidity things that they speak about. So there's these it's a Tower of Babel in terms of confusion. So when you say man or male, people have their interpretation of what that means. So it's so difficult in that kind of environment to then say, well, this is the duty of a man, when you're not even clear with the person you're communicating with on what, when you say the word man, what are they hearing or what are they thinking? And I think it starts there with defining the role, right? Defining the purpose, defining the nature of a thing, which has to go to its creator. Without the creator and what he has created a thing for, and the knowledge of knowing that information, we're at a loss. So I think that that's the critical component, is that we have to look at it from the standpoint of understanding who we are as men. I want to be a man. What does that mean? Yes, I'm the maintainer and the provider, but today, are there the opportunities for me to be the sole provider of my family? Where my father, when he was here, you know, may God be pleased with him, he raised our family being just a factory worker, and he could buy a new car. He was able to do that just working a factory job with no high school diploma. You can't do that today. The factory jobs are pretty much gone. And if you have one, it's not enough to buy a new car with, and definitely not to support a family with. So things have changed, and we have to re-examine those responsibilities and duties in a modern context, but always hold the standard of God up as the guiding principle for us, and then try to make our way back to it. But just like we didn't get into this condition overnight, we're not going to fix it overnight. And that's where patience and prayer and hope is going to be required, because we didn't get here overnight, and it's going to take a lot of will, a lot of fighting and struggling to get up out of this condition. But we can do it if we have the will to do so.
I have a great response, Brother Abel. I have a question for you and Lieutenant Daniel, which is resources, or let's say is lack of resources an issue when it comes to leadership? Somebody may want to take an initiative. Oh man, I feel like I can do this. I feel like I have to go out and organize, but then I don't have a car. You know, so all these excuses, right? But we have a caller, and please tell us your name and where you're calling from.
Hello.
Hello, is this Kofi?
Yeah, this is the same Kofi. I keep on listening to you guys.
Okay, so Kofi, if I hope it's a different question to the this time.
No. It's I just want you guys all to wish that I'm the devil, and I want you guys to catch me and what I'm saying. You understand me? I just want you guys all to wish like I'm the devil.
So you're playing a devil's advocate.
Yeah. I'm the devil. So you guys have to find a way to convince me and see that God is the one that's doing all these things.
Well. If you're playing the devil's advocate, or if you want to claim the devil, we can't convince you. I don't know. I don't think the devil is
no, because God is always powerful than the devil.
But we're not God, so we can play his role.
No, because now you guys are.
Okay, so let's continue with the conversation. Can you go ahead and it's a unique day today, so please bear with us, Brother Abel. If please go ahead and respond to us, a question that I asked earlier.
Well, could you restate it one more time there, because it was kind of cut off?
Yes, lack of resources. It's lack of resources.
Lack of resources. Yes, absolutely. That's a reality. That is a reality, because everything we need and want in a particular in a capitalist society, you're going to have to pay for it. And fortunately, we're not a poor people. We just are not wise with how we spend money. And we spend it on what we want instead of what we need. And that again goes to knowledge. We have to change the culture of our people. And it has to start in the education, but it has to be reinforced through the spiritual system as well as in our political agendas. All of it has to be aimed at the same purpose, different methods, because the church is not the politician and the politician is not the educator, but each has a role to play in this. And there is sufficient resources for us to get it done, but we don't have the unity. That's the missing component in all of this, is unity. As long as it's just Brother Lieutenant Daniel and his church and it's by itself, that it's an island. As long as it's Sister Angie, as long as it's you, dear brother, and we're just doing our own thing, disconnected from one another, then our resources are even more depleted and more divided. And instead of us benefiting to the and contributing to the whole, each of us is just taking a little kernel. But if we took the kernel and shared it amongst each other, we would have all that we need. There's a beautiful scripture in the Bible. I'll be real quick with this, where it's talking about a story that is given about Elijah and a widow's son. And the prophet goes to this woman who was a widow, and all she had was a little bit of meal. And she said she was just going to fix that food, give it to her son, and then they were going to go die. They were in that terrible of a condition. And listen to what the prophet said to her. He told her instead to make the meal and give it to him. Yeah, sounds strange at first, but there's something about that. There's something about when you're willing to sacrifice, and that's what's required of all of us today, to remove some of our comforts to contribute to the whole, because no matter how uncomfortable we are, we don't have to look far and we'll find somebody else in greater need than us.
Exactly.
But we have to have that kind of mind and heart to be willing to give up the new car, if our old car is working, and maybe give that to a cause bigger than ourselves. But that again starts here. It's going to take an adjustment in our thinking and how we relate to one another in order to make that a reality.
Thank you so much, Brother Abel. And I know Lieutenant may have a response to that, but because of time, Angie has to attend to some urgent needs, and we are getting very close to our time here. This is a conversation that needs a lot of, I would say, time to divulge and express all our opinions. But because of the limitation we have today, we will come back another day and to dive deeper into this. But I really have enjoyed and learned a lot. I know, Angie, you have to. So, Angie, please go ahead and give us your closing remarks. I mean, if you have any comments. If not, we'll have our guests give us their closing remarks, and then Angie, you can close us.
Well, I just wanted to say thank you so very much, Robert Torres. If you get the chance to go back and listen to it, I'm so grateful to Lieutenant Daniel Allen, Brother Abel Muhammad. I am just so grateful. I have a flight to catch, and so I have to get to the airport soon. But I've learned a lot, because I think that Johnny John Williams said earlier, there's a lot of judging. And so sometimes, when Brother Muhammad was talking about, there is now in an age where, basically you have to be politically correct, and, the fluidity when it comes to a male or a transgender or, all of these different adjectives and pronouns to describe people. At the end of the day, women are not fully aware of all that may actually go on and what actually happens in a man's life and the frustration that he may encounter. And so, I was looking to hear from a point of what can we do as a support system, and Brother Abel said love. I also probably think that one of the other desires is to be respected. I know that for me, I like respect, but also just being able to learn. That's the state that I'm in right now. I want to learn. I don't want to, contribute to the already existing problems. I want to learn. The Bible says that we ought to examine ourselves. And so if we are always pointing the finger and we're not part of the solution, then clearly we're what? A part of the problem. And so to that end, I am so grateful. I don't think I can repeat that enough. I know that you both are very busy, so I'm very grateful for both of you, and for Senna as well for hosting the show.
Thank you so much. We'll take the closing remarks from our guests, and we'll start with Lieutenant Daniel Allen, please.
Yes.
just very briefly, I just wanted to kind of piggyback on what Brother Abel was saying, is that the reason there's a lack of resources, but like he said, the resources that we do have, the men, the leadership, not just the men and the women in the minority communities, we have to work together. I've seen some situations where we backstabbed each other over crumbs. We could never reach these young men out here that's shooting each other and don't know God and don't know self-respect. If us as leaders are fighting over money to the point that we're trying to hurt each other, we will never make any advancements that way. Love is top priority for us to make advancements. That's it.
Thank you so much. Brother Abel, please.
Yes, I'll just say briefly, that we can't have any roles in any community without first being a community. And the key word in community is unity, which means that all of us have a role to play in this. No matter what we believe, no matter our perspective, each of us is unique. And I'll just end with this quote from the Holy Quran that says that God made us into tribes and families, not that we would hate one another, but that we might know one another. So the difference that each of us bring doesn't have to be opposing. It just has to be a different perspective. And there's knowledge that can be gained from the different way that I see something, the different way that each of you sees something. Doesn't make one more correct or the other one inferior or superior. It's just unique and different, like each one of us as human beings are. But each one of us also has something of value, or else we wouldn't be on the planet. And it's that garnishing of the power of that unity which would give us the power to change the reality that we see and make it into a reality that we want and that God wants for us as well.
Thank you so much, Brother Abel. We really want to appreciate you, gentlemen, for this, for the time, for the knowledge, the inspiration that you've given us this evening. We really appreciate it. And I also want to thank your families, your wives at home, for allowing you to come here and spend all this time with us. Really want to thank them for supporting us in this manner and also watching the show. And for all of you who have watched and followed, this is the last comment coming through. I surely enjoyed tonight's show. Thank you so much, Tomoy Newman. This is from, Rashonda said, amen, amen. Well, once again, thank you all for joining us. For everyone who has joined in and shared your comment, even those who did not share your comments, we know you took a thing or two from this episode. To whom much is given, much is required. Next week, Wednesday, 6 to 8 p.m., we shall be here. But remember that coming year, we'll be starting the show on Tuesdays instead of Wednesdays. Progressive Minds is going to shift from Wednesdays to Tuesdays. The time doesn't change. It's still going to remain 6 to 8 p.m. Well, on that note, Brother Abel, Brother Daniel, once again, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you. And Angie, have a safe flight to where you're going.
Thank you.
And when you get to your destination, remember that God loves you and all the Black men in this country loves you.
Oh, that is so sweet. God bless. Thank you, Senator.
All right, y'all have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
All right.